our last task of today, 16. To have the following speed dials and fast dials. They both should have the speed dial with the name label Hurley at DN 3004, the fast dial for Sawyer's Mobile at 006-7035-7575, and the fast dial for Amsterdam Vendor at 703-7333. Also provision James Ford's phone, same phone as above, but give him one additional, to have the following speed dial lock at DN 3002. Okay, we're also told to provision Desmond Hume's phone at DN 3001 to have a busy Lampfield speed dial for John Locke's phone at DN 3002, and also to allow him to edit fast dials and speed dials directly from his phone. Okay? Load speed dial list provided in this deep dive startup configs into the CME router's flash memory and ensure that it is accessible from the phones, and then load the bulk speed dial list provided in this deep dive's startup configs into the CME configuration. However, this one don't do into flash memory. Make sure it's accessed via TFTP only, so use your own TFTP server on your laptop or the CUCM server if a TFTP server if you don't have one handy, and ensure that phone users must dial *60 and then the speed dial index number that they wish to dial. Note that there will be no visible menu structure that will be viewable on the phone's display. Finally, ensure that lock can add or delete both personal speed dials and speed dial buttons, as well as reset his phone all directly from his display. Go ahead and have him add the speed dial button for Hurley at 3004 and the personal speed dial for Sawyer at 006-7035-7575, and then reset his phone himself, and then test to ensure that they both work, and check the iOS CLI to see what's changed. Then ensure that Desmond Hume does not have this capability from his phone. I think earlier up here I just said that make sure that he can edit them directly from his phone. That was a oversight in my part. I decided later that I didn't want him to have access to it, but I forgot to pull this little bit of configuration out or wording out. So I'll change that before you see the final copy. Okay. If you're watching the recorded version, then what's in your members account is already the corrected version. Okay, so let's go to Desmond's phone. Clear off our screen here, and let's go into ePhone 1, and we're told to give Desmond a speed dial for Hurley at DN 3004. So we're going to just use the keyword speed dial, have to give it an index tag, the speed dial phone number, which was Hurley. Okay, so phone number is 3004, and the label on the phone is Hurley. Okay, then we were told to give him the fast dial for Sawyer's Mobile. So we'll use the keyword fast dial tag. Phone number is 006-7035-7575, and the name, a little bit different from the label, but the name is, and notice it says no quotes required, is Sawyer's Mobile. Okay, then fast dial 2 was to be this DN, although that actually should say 0 and then that number, so that the first 0 being the PSTN trunk access code. Again, I'll change that. Mistype. And then Amsterdam vendor. Okay, so do show run pipe 2 section ephone space 1. There we've got his configuration for fast dials and speed dials. We'll just copy that and go to voice register pool 1, and guess what? It's one of the few things that works exactly the same. Okay? Then we were told to also add another speed dial on James Ford phone. Now, James Ford's phone, the one we're on right now, happens to be a SIP phone, voice register pool, obviously, and so we are not able, let's look back at our config, we're not able to give a busy lamp field speed dial for John Locke. Okay? We are able to do that for Desmond's phone because he's a skinny phone, so we can use a busy lamp field speed dial or a monitor or a watch button or things that we can't do with SIP yet. So that's the reason that we're going to give him a speed dial to 3002 to the skinny phone of John Locke and the label Locke. Now we're going to go ahead and restart that phone, and of course we'll restart ephone 1 as well. So do show run pipe 2 section ephone space 1, and also to pool 1. Pool space 1. Okay, so we've got the 2 speed dials and the 2 fast dials on the voice register pool, and we've got the speed dial and the 2 fast dials on ephone 1. And we were also told to provision Desmond's phone to have a busy lamp field for John's phone. So let's actually add that. Yep, we're back on ephone 1. So let's do, for him, we already have button 1:1. We're going to paste that, button 1:1, but the second button, which is currently occupied, because we just did a restart, is currently occupied by Hurley, the speed dial, which should work. Press it and see if it, once it catches up, see if it dials. And sure enough, it dials over to Hurley's phone, which is a SIP phone. Hugo Reyes, Hurley. Okay, but we're going to go ahead and say button 2, and I'm actually going to go back and erase all the buttons so that I can do question mark, and we can see normal phone lines are provisioned index tag to button number as a ratio, sort of. Instead of a colon separating the button line and the DN tag, we can use, and I believe we mentioned most of these, S for silent ring, B for silent ring with call waiting beep not muted. The previous one was call waiting was muted as well. F for a feature ring, kind of a distinctive ring. And there's also some things dealing with DND feature ring. We'll look at all that tomorrow. Well, actually, the next deep dive. So in a few days. M for monitor line. Okay, so a silent ring call waiting is suppressed. This is just a monitor. W is a watch line, also known as a busy lamp field speed dial. Then we have overlay, call waiting overlay, and expansion lines. And you can use different separator options or different operators for the different buttons. So again, button 1:1, that one was already there, and then 2, watch for which DN. It just happens, it just so happens that it's actually DN2. So it's going to be 2W2 and restart, and we're going to watch his phone restart, and when it does, it automatically moves speed dial down to a new place. We don't have to define what place it is like we would in CUCM. So now we've got a watch line for John Locke. So anytime John Locke goes off hook, let's say John calls the PSTN, notice this little icon here. Bring this up and I'll do it here again. Watch this little icon right here go from a telephone to two off-hook receivers. There we go. Okay, so if he calls anyone else, I made a misdial, so he'll hang up. He's going off hook again. Obviously, we see he's off hook here. 3004, he calls, he's connected. But we see that he's off hook. As soon as he hangs up and goes on hook, we see that as well. So it's, and the light actually lights up. It's just that this client doesn't actually have functionality for changing the color of these little buttons. Okay, so we've configured a watch line, which also deals with presence. There is a little bit more to presence that we'll deal with when we get to the presence module, although there's really not a lot more when it comes to CME and presence, just a tad bit. But that essentially is it, is we have a watch line there. We also could use an M for a monitor line. Okay, would this be able to be used as a speed dial? Sure enough, it can be. We could also have it as a monitor line, but watch line is probably what we want there. Okay, back to our task. So now we're told to load the speed dial list provided into the router's flash memory. So let me pull up the speed dial list. And let me actually open it in text edit. We've got two different lists here that we're going to be bringing up. We've got this 1, 2, 3, 4th bullet tells us to load the speed dial list into flash, and the 5th bullet tells us to load the bulk speed dial list, but do it via TFTP. Okay, so our speed dial list is an XML file with directory entries that I've already populated. Our bulk dial is a comma-separated value, and it can be saved as .csv or .text. Doesn't even matter if it's not saved as anything, as long as it's in the proper format. All of this information, before you worry, is in the CUCME administration guide under speed dial, configuring speed dials, information about them, bulk loading speed dials, which is what we're dealing with now. Actually, sorry, that's the next one we're dealing with. Here's the format. It tells you the headers for the CSV file. Okay, a line that begins with a semicolon is handled as a comment. They're separated by commas, so they're CSV files. Okay, let's just go back up to the beginning. There's also the speed dial buttons and abbreviated dialing. Again, we mentioned there's local speed dial menu, personal speed dial menu, speed dial buttons, and abbreviated bulk speed dial. So we've got a lot of different options that we can do. We've already done the speed dial buttons and abbreviated dials. Subsequent entries beyond the ones that we see buttons for are used with the speed dial code or tag, and then the ABBR or abbreviated soft key. We've already done those and configured them and seen them on a skinny phone and even on a SIP phone. Then we've got the local speed dial menu. That's actually what we're going to do with the XML file, speeddial.xml, which is placed in the router's flash memory. Personal speed dial, we're going to see how to configure that. And then bulk loading, which we just talked about. So let's scroll down to local speed dial, actually go back up. And then there's also phone user interface for speed dial and fast dial. We're going to look at that in just a little bit as well. We looked at monitor line. We used a watch, but BLF watch, but it could have been a monitor just the same. Okay. Oops. Okay, let's go to Skinny, defining speed dials. We've already done that one actually. Here we go. All right. Enabling a local speed dial menu. A speed dial XML file contains, if it contains missing information, it's not displayed on the phone. That's not what I want. I want the example of it. So enabling a local one, yes, it tells us we need HTTP. It's not actually accessed via TFTP. It's accessed via HTTP, so that has to be the path. And it tells us how to pull the file in. And that's pretty much all it tells us. It does give an example of the XML file. I just have to find it. Here we go. Configuration examples, I think, is where it is. Yep. Okay, under configuration examples, this is where we get the ability to just copy and paste and watch copying and pasting across the page, but copy this part and then copy this part, paste it into Notepad, and then change whatever you want. So you've got the exact format that the phone is expecting in terms of the XML element or tags. To answer someone's question that I just now saw, is there presence enabled to get the BLF working? No, I don't have presence enabled to just get the standard BLF speed dial working, but that's because I'm going between two skinny phones. If I was trying to go between a SIP and a skinny phone, then I would have to enable presence. And that's just under the the SIP-UA global config and then presence enable. I mean, I might as well just go ahead and show it real quick because it's just so simple. There's really not a lot. Presence enable. And then you can monitor between SIP and skinny phones as well. We will show, when we talk about presence, the ability to see presence and SIP subscribe and SIP notify messages between CUCM and CME. It actually only works in one direction, but it does work in that one direction. But again, we're not going to go into all that right now, but just to answer your question, presence was not enabled. I did just now enable it, but I could turn it off just the same, which I don't remember if it shows up as no presence enable if I do that. Nope, it did. Just disable it just the same. Okay, go enable it again, show run. There's the show with it enabled. No presence enable. Whoops. Do show run. It's not enabled. And then just go off hook on John Locke's phone and watch his button here. And sure enough, we see it. But again, that's just because it's between two skinny phones. Okay, great question. So getting the XML file, no big deal. Getting the bulk speed dial in CSV format, again, no big deal. Everything's in the admin guide. And when I say no big deal, I don't just mean in the field, I mean in the lab. You just have to have read the documents and know where to look. And if you've read them and just look at a basic table of contents over here, then you should probably be able to find examples, copy and paste, and you're not going to be stuck trying to figure everything out. Just like in the last deep dive, we talked about the phone backgrounds, the directory structure that we have to create and place them in, and the way the file, the list.xml file has to be, and the ringtones.xml has to be, that those are both served through TFTP. All of that we went over. It's in the documentation. You just have to know where to look to find it. Okay, so we've already got these files created, and we provided them. The lab may not, but again, copy and paste and create them yourself. No big deal. I just don't want to take up 10 pages of tasks telling you what to put in all of them. So we're going to go ahead and at this point, incidentally, even though you can't see them, just since I have this up, one of our SIP phones that we just added fast dials to and speed dials. Actually, let's go take a look here real quick. The skinny phones, we looked at the speed dial button, not just the BLF button, but the speed dial button here for Hurley. We didn't look at the fast dials. and that's done under directories. And then under personal speed dial. So there's the two fast dials that we added. That's the personal speed dial. Not to be confused with the local speed dial or the local, obviously the local directory. Local speed dial is what we're about to do. Okay, the speed dial is not showing up on the SIP phone, and I hadn't even really looked at it because I was focusing on the skinny phone, but it's because we didn't go out and say voice register global, no create profile, and then restart the phone. So we're just going to go ahead and copy and paste and tell this to happen for everything. Skinny and SIP alike, the SIP ones being the ones that really need it. The skinny phones have re-registered quickly. The SIP phones now registered, and even though you can't see them, the SIP phone 1 has Hurley and lock. I can just hit the speed dial, and sure enough, it calls Hurley. Or hit the other speed dial, and sure enough, it calls lock from his speed dial. Okay. So back to the task at hand, which is to load the speed dial XML list into the router's flash memory. So I've already got a TFTP server set up on my laptop, and so we'll do a copy TFTP ://192.168.10.50 is my IP, and my firewall's off. Speed dial.xml to flash : yes, I want that to be the file name. I happen to already have one there. There wasn't one by default, but I've already put it there. Yes, I want to overwrite it. And no, I do not want to erase the flash before copying. Looks like it loaded it and copied it just fine. Everything was good. I can do a more speed dial.xml. I don't have to put flash if that's the default location. By the way, you can more things that are out on remote TFTP servers. Like I can more TFTP ://192.168.10.50/speed dial.xml, and it will go and download it and then display what was in that file. Okay, just like I think I still have a list.xml there as well. It is capital L. Nope. Apparently I don't still have it there. Nope, I don't still have it there. I do still have a bulk dial. .text. There we go. So out on the TFTP server, that's what we're going to do next. All right, so I just copied it into Flash, show Flash, pipe to include speed dial, or just speed, and you can see I've obviously put it in there 2 other times. As I overwrite it, it shows up as deleted until I do a squeeze Flash, which I'm not going to do now because it will take forever to rebuild the file structure. But I do have speed dial XML. We moored it so we can see it. So now, from the phones, I should be able to do directories, local speed dial, option 5, and from both of these, and I should be able to see all of the various vendors and names, and if I have rights to be able to call that, I should just be able to hit dial, and it rings out to the PSTN. Hang up and ring from the other phone. Sure enough. Okay, so the bulk, the speed dial list, the XML, not difficult at all. The bulk speed dial list is a little bit different. We already saw the format that it's in. The way that we use or configure it, and then the way that we use it, is through telephony service, and we say bulk speed dial, and we've got a list and a prefix. So first we're going to say list. We're going to give it an index. We can have 0 through 9, so 10 lists, and you can have up to 10,000 numbers. I don't remember if it's total or per list, but you can certainly have up to 10,000 numbers. You can have 0000. Actually, if you remember, do more. TFTP://192.168.1050/bulk dial.text. You note that I have an index number, 01, 02. That can be up to 4 digits in length. So 0000, 0001 through 9999, so 10,000. Then the number, then the name, and then whether you want the number to be hidden or displayed when the phone calls it, and then comma, because the last thing can be append. So like here for option 05, I had *5, but if you remember, *59 is paging all phones, *51 pages shipping, *52 pages sales. So this just says paging departments, and it's hiding this, but it's allowing you to append whatever digit you want. Okay, so that you do *5, and then it's allowing another digit to be appended before it actually tries that against the digit analysis engine, which is essentially a set of dial peers. Okay, so if I don't say hide, like here I just have comma, comma, so nothing for hide and nothing for append, then it will replace this actual dialed number with what was the user dialed kind of prefix or string. So to begin with, before we actually define a list, let's actually define the prefix. So bulk speed dial prefix, and we were told that in our task, excuse me, we were told in the bulk speed in the task that the users must dial *60 and then the speed dial index number they wish to dial. The speed dial index number is the index number not of the list, but inside the list. Okay, and I probably could word that a little bit better. And in the lab, if you got something that was worded maybe not so clear, a perfect example of something you should ask a proctor about. So *6 is what I actually want as the prefix here, *6. Then we have bulk speed dial list and an index for the list. That's where the 0 comes in. Then the URL, which is TFTP, and it's not going to load this into Flash. This is actually going to stay over on TFTP. That way we can change it whenever we want. 192.168.1050 bulk dial.text. And if it's in the proper format, then it will show us that it loaded properly. If it's not in the proper format, it will not work properly. In fact, let me just go ahead and pull up my TFTP server, and let me reveal the file folder that those files are in. And here's my bulk dial, and I'm just going to go ahead and drag this over here, and I'm just going to go ahead and change this to, I'm going to add a 1 there. By the way, all of these indexes have to be the same length. Now, because, and I saved it, because I only have 1 through 6, I could just have those 1 digit, and it would save the user from having to dial 04 or 06. It's obviously, if you're going up to 99 or 100, you would need the 0 as a prefix. But I have one of them that is a prefix that's a different length from the others, and this isn't going to work. It's not going to be an acceptable format. So now, when I try to load it, saying it processed it, I can promise you it's not in the right format. I'll tell you what will definitely not work is if I switch these around. Okay, file's already in use. Let me go back and say no, and then load it again. not returning the error that it had before. Let's say do show telephony service bulk dial. Bulk speed dial global 0. Oh, it's wanting a specific index to search. 02. Yeah, it did load it. It didn't show 101, okay, which is one that I had up there. So it didn't load the first record, but it did load the rest of the records that are proper. Okay, if I had all of these backwards, for instance, like this, where I've got them in the wrong order, let's do this. I'll put this back to 0, 1. We'll save this. Okay, it does load it into running memory, so in order to get the change to take effect, I do need to say no bulk dial, and then bulk dial. And here we see that the file load failed. That's what I wanted to show you. So if they're in the wrong order, it's going to fail. So let me go back, put them in the right order. So let me just do this, and let's see if I just load some of them. Yep. If some of them are in the right order, it will load those that are in the right order. So global, and the reason there's global versus local is that you can actually apply this same command. So do show run, pipe to section, let's say bulk. Let's just do bulk. Show run, pipe to section bulk. You can do the same command. I did it under telephony service, but you can do it under an ePhone, and then it's a bulk dial just for that ePhone. Here, it's done globally. So anyway, the show telephony service bulk speed dial for global. First of all, I can do a summary, and it'll show you where the files are, the list index, how many entries. So it sees 4 entries, even though there's 6, and that's because 2 of them are in the wrong order. So earlier, when it failed, it was because all of them were in the wrong order, and it didn't know what to do with itself because it couldn't even find 1. Okay, save. Now we'll come back to telephony service, say no bulk dial, load it in. Now we'll do the show telephony service bulk dial speed dial summary, 6 entries, the size of the file, 576 bytes, and then instead of summary, we can say for global list 0, because it's list ID 0. So far we're at *6 to access the bulk dial in general, then 0 for the list ID, and then past the list ID, the index to search inside the file. So 01, it shows that if you were to dial *6001, it's index 1, this is the number that will be dialed, and this is what will be shown on your screen. And then yes and no, yes hide, no append. Even though there's no column header there, that's what that's for. So if we did 02, it would be no. So no, don't hide the number from the user and don't append. We're going to see this in just a moment. Number 3, Yes, hide it for Jack Shepard at 1001. No, don't append. 04. Again, hide it. Don't append. 3004. Hugo Reyes. 05. Star 5. Paging departments. Yes, hide it. And yes, append. And star 6. Yes, hide it. Don't append. Paging all phones is what displays. Star 59 is what it will dial, but it won't show us that. And there is no 7. But it tells us what we have to dial on each of these. Okay? So let's go try it. Let's go to our phones, our skinny phones that we can see. We'll try this from our SIP phones as well. And we'll dial star 6 0 0 1. And we see Amsterdam vendor, but it only shows star 6001. That's because the actual number is hidden. Okay, so let's try dialing star 6002, where it replaces it with the actual number because we didn't hide the number. Star 63, I'm sorry, star 6003 dials over to 1001 Jack Shepard, although it hides the number. Star 6004 hides the number and dials Hugo Reyes. Star 6005 dials to, it's waiting for us because it's appending a number. So if I press 2, then it's going to dial to paging departments, and it's specifically going to be, let's try that again. Was that, what was our paging DN? Yeah, paging shipping and paging sales. Yep. All right, so let's try that again. Star 6005. Was it 5? Hang on, let me just make sure I'm... Yep. Okay, star 6005 and then 2. There we go, paging departments. It just wanted it a little bit faster. And now it's paging, and if you can hear, there's a little bit of echo. If I turn up louder, we'll end up getting some feedback. Okay, but we went to paging departments. And then star 6006 should go to paging all phones, which I'm actually calling from one of the phones that it would be paging. So let's try it from a SIP phone. Star, let me turn that up a little bit. Star 6. And it doesn't work. So it is a skinny-based feature only, as many of these features are. Skinny-based features. Okay, so now we've taken care of loading the speed dial XML, loading the bulk speed dial, testing them on the display, and no visible menu structure is viewable. So this is something that a company would set up that has a large number of speed dials for various vendors or whatever, and then post a good old-fashioned piece of paper or maybe a virtual sticky note or something on someone's physical desktop or laptop desktop or something like that, and you would use that to, or maybe a click to dial menu would actually be HTML click to dial would be great, and CME does support that now. Okay, supports it for skinny phones as well as SIP phones, as long as you enable out of dialog refers. In other words, a SIP out of dialog refer means that the refer tells you pretty much who to send an invite to. A refer can be used for transferring, so refer to in passing, but then also It can be used to initiate a call that wasn't already there, but it's an out-of-dialogue refer because there wasn't already a dialogue going on that the phone had initiated. So it's out of sequence or out of dialogue sequence. So that's what an out-of-dialogue refer message can do, is allow things like click to dial and, presence and other various things like that. So now, finally, last task of the day is to ensure that John Locke can add, change, or delete both personal speed dials and speed dial buttons, as well as reset his phone, all directly from his phone display. And then ensure that Desmond Hume does not have this capability. So let's go take a look at show run. Let's actually just do this command again because it's good enough. There we go. We've got our ePhone 1 and our ePhone 2. And if I go to ePhone 1, which is Desmond's phone, we're told to ensure he does not have this capability. This is the no phone UI, or user interface, for speed dials and fast dials. And if I do show run pipe 2 section ePhone 1, I now see that that shows up. And if it shows up, that means that the this is the negative form, so the positive form of the command, phone UI speed dial, must be the default. So if I just reverse this to an allow state and look at that show run again, it doesn't show up. So by default, users are able to use their phone user interface to edit and manipulate speed dials and fast dials. So let's go ahead and restart that phone. We don't need to do anything to ePhone 2, John Locke's phone, because that was actually the default to allow it. So let's look at our screen again. So Desmond just restarted, and this we actually do by going to Services. So I press the Services physical button, and we see Extension Mobility. We'll talk about that in 2 deep dives from now. If I press 1 for extension mobility, it's not enabled on this phone. But if I press 2 for My Phone Apps, it also says the function is not available. That's exactly what we were told to have it say. Okay, what about John's phone? Whoops, I hit Settings, not Services. All right, so let's hit Services. We don't care about extension mobility. We haven't set it up. My Phone Apps, we see speed dial buttons, personal speed dials, and reset the phone. So if I go to speed dial buttons, number 1, I see that there's no records found, but I can add one. So let's add one. Let's give it a label. We were given instructions to give him to add a speed dial for Hurley at DN 3004. So let's do that. The label is Hurley. And the number is 3004, and submit. Okay, now we see that he's got a speed dial button. So if we exit out, go back into Services, and 2 for My Phone Apps, speed dial buttons, number 1. We come back to the screen we were just at. We've got Hurley at 3004. We can delete it, change it, add it, or exit back out. By the way, delete doesn't ask, are you sure? Just deletes it. So if I exit back out, which unfortunately doesn't take me back 1 step, then I can go to number 3 to reset my phone. And again, it doesn't ask you, are you sure? So bear that in mind. It just resets your phone. And it resets it actually keeping you in that screen, believe it or not. And notice that it added Hurley there. Okay, so let's go back to Services. Actually, let's go to Directories first. And if I go to Local Speed Dial 5, that's there. That's the XML file. But if I go to 6 personal speed dial, it says no records found. So we'll exit out and we'll be back at My Phone Apps. And we're going to add a personal speed dial, no records found, which we were told to add Sawyer at this DN. I don't know why I'm copying it. I can't paste it in the phone display. So we're going to add the label of Sawyer at, and this is really his mobile, at 006-705-7575, I believe is the number. Yep, I can see it over on my PSTN phone. Nope, sorry, not 705. 7035. 7035 7575. Submit. There's the record. Exit out. Now I go back to directories. Actually, let's just test to make sure the Hurley speed dial worked. Sure enough, the Hurley speed dial worked. Let's now go to directories and item 6 for personal speed dial. We do see a speed dial. Hit dial, make sure it works, and sure enough, it rings it out to the PSTN.